Welcome to the Virgo full moon forecast. And Justin is back with me today to talk about the Virgo full moon. How you doing, Justin?
Great. How are you doing, Liz?
Good. It's like, wow, this energy's been intense. I've been cleaning out and getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. A lot's happening with the Pluto going into Aquarius and all those personal planets going over it. So,
Yes, for sure. So welcome again to the full moon forecast. And to get a hold of Justin, he's justincrockettLZ.com and his email is justin.elzie@gmail. And myself, Elizabeth Liz Muschett, you can get a hold of me at alightpath.com or send me an email at liz@alightpath. So it's time for the full moon again. Boy, those moons are clicking right along. And we have the Virgo full moon, which is also called a snow moon, on February 24th at 4:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the moon is at 5 degrees Virgo in 23 minutes, opposite the sun at 5 degrees Pisces in 23 minutes. Justin, can you share about the Nakshatra?
sure, the lunar mansion. Sure. So, one of the things for those watching the show that we like to look at is the lunar mansion for the moon, and this is the constellation that the moon is going through. And this is actually a snapshot from the sidereal or the Jyotish side, but it still has some relationship with the overall theme of this full moon. As we get into it, you're going to start to see things come together with what the theme of this is. And so this nakshatra or lunar mansion is called Maga, and it's in the fourth pada, and it's called the Star of Power. This is the constellation that it's going through. And the keyword theme is leadership, because in the sidereal, the moon is still in Leo. But here, but there's some relationship to where it's still the same energy as what we're seeing in the Western with the Virgo. So it represents a leadership, emotionally giving to the people and rising to the top. So one of the things I really want you to remember about this is emotionally giving to the people, because there is a big overarching theme about relationships with this moon. The ruling planet for this particular nakshatra is Ketu, which is the lunar south node, and it's considered a planet in sidereal Jyotish astrology. Ruling deity is Beatrice, which is our ancestors. Again, relationships here we're talking about. And the symbol is the throne. And the basis above is mourning, and basis below is leaving the body. So this is a pretty powerful uh, moon that we are dealing with, Liz.
I think so. And here's the chart with all the aspects in it for Virgo. Um, it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting, that's for sure. And we're going to get in more into that. So, do you have an overall theme or a few words that you would say about this full moon?
Well, I would just say this is really I feel one of the big themes. So there can be, as we know, there can be more than one theme. But I think one of the big ones that really stands out to me is relationships. And when we get into the Sabian symbols, and coming back to the nakshatra, which is talking about ancestors and those the help that we get from um, the spirit world, that there is something here to do with relationships with this moon. Yourself?
Well, I would say like the Virgo energy is about it has a partial part of giving and it's about health and duty and service, but are you over giving or is that in balance? And then the sun is in Pisces, so asking us to be compassionate. So to bring those to the center so they're not out of balance, having compassion for self and others.
Right. Awesome.
The Sabian symbols were channeled in 1925 by spiritualist medium Elzie with the assistance of astrologer Mark Edmonds Jones.
So one of the things is, before we get into these for the moon, can I just mention to the crowd what the ascendant and the midheaven symbols were, the summarization of those, because that gives us an overall context of the chart. And so as we've, I don't know if we've already mentioned it yet, but or we're supposed to mention it, the ascendant, of course, is in Capricorn there, and the Sabian symbols for that speak to attunement to the natural order of things and the web of relationships we deal with. And then the Sabian symbols for the midheaven, which is Scorpio, it speaks to a comradeship and getting along with others and humanitarianism. So a bit, again, back to what you're saying, caring for others, with the Pisces compassion. So this is where we see the ascendant at and the midheaven at, which gives us context for the bigger picture here around relationships and how we are dealing with those.
Thank you for sharing that extra bit of information. I enjoyed that very much. So we have 3 degrees. We do the degree before the full moon and the degree of the full moon and the degree after. So it's leading up to the now and what's coming next. So we'll start with Virgo 4. Black and white children play together happily. And the keynote is overcoming socio-cultural prejudices, brotherhood.
And there we go with relationships. Mm-hmm. There we go with relationships. So then Virgo 5 is a person becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies, open to new levels of consciousness, again, the ancestors, and imagination.
And then next is Virgo 6, a merry-go-round. And the keynote is first experience of intensity, a life process, and the possibility of using them to reach a characteristic ego satisfaction. And can you read the keyword, because it's covered up on mine?
Yeah, it's an objective approach to life force. That's very Virgo, being very objective about things.
Yes, exactly. So do you have an overall, and that goes in with what we were saying about the Nakshatra and what we've already been talking about. I love it how they all roll in together and complement.
Absolutely. I think it's really about attuning to, like the second one there, the Virgo 5, attuning to, the natural order of things, elements, and being open to what's happening around us and the relationships that we have. We're not just individuals, we're all interconnected with one another, right? And so I think that's what I really kind of get out of this whole thing.
That's wonderful. And then a little bit about Virgo. It's a mutable earth sign and it's ruled by Mercury. And we're in the full moon energy, and full moons are about ends, release and adjustments, and preparing to move forward. The sun is ego and the moon are emotions. And do you want to continue?
I was going to say something about the full moon, that, as you're talking about their end and release, it's that pinnacle of the cycle of what the new moon. But as we look at some of those first degrees of the waning moon, it's still looking at trying to finish things before a new cycle. So from here on to the new moon, it is still releasing, it's still completing. It doesn't mean that everything ends on the full moon, but it is this initiation of an ending period of releasing and completing things. And what didn't work, and as we look back and what we got to look forward towards the new cycle. That's the
Well,
only thing I was going to
and
mention.
releasing, and you could just be making adjustments because it's like you've had that new phase to work with it, and so you kind of know what works and what doesn't and what needs to be adjusted. Or it's even possible that you get to a point where um, this I don't want to do this, or maybe it's the wrong timing and I'll put that aside for another time.
Right, absolutely.
And the mutable energy is finishing up and moving to the next season to begin. Mercury is about communication, information, and thinking. And Virgo is analysis, health, perfection, and paralysis.
Right.
Anything you'd like to add to those?
Yeah, no, I would just, and for those who may be new to astrology, of course, Virgo, Mercury rules Virgo, and so that's why that's coming into play there. But um, I also look at Virgo as being very analytical and rational and logical, and Pisces being imaginative and creative. And so it's always interesting, the poles between these two signs is always whether it's uh, logical, rational versus imaginative. So there's always some balance between those two poles of thinking. You know.
Trying to keep you in balance.
Yeah.
Okay, and just a quick note about the lunar phase family. It's a 3-year process, so that we're in the middle of it at where the yellow highlighted full moon is. So if you think back or look back to August 22, August 22nd, around 2022, the moon was at 4 degrees Virgo. And so you might have started a project then, and sometimes it takes a while to bring it to completion, and you might be reviewing or analyzing it if you want to carry it forward or not. And each phase lasts about 9 months. So, and then there's a yearly lunar phase. So we have a new moon in each of the 12 signs and a full moon in each of the 12 signs. So the Virgo new moon was September 14th of 2023 at 21 degrees of Virgo and 58 minutes. And now we're at the Virgo full moon, and it's time to release. And that new moon was very, very close to my own moon. And I've been making a lot of changes and shifts. And like I started my YouTube channel. So.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
So here's some chart details. Do you want to start with that, Justin?
Sure. So we look at the chart ruler being Saturn, because of course the ascendant. We look at chart rulers, what rules the ascendant, and it's Capricorn, and and of course we know Saturn's in Pisces right now, and then the moon ruler, Mercury's in Pisces, and then it's a fan-shaped chart, and the moon being the handle, as it's all those other planets are connecting to the moon there, and of course moon representing home, family, mother, nurturing and nourishment.
Yes.
Something else I wanted to point out around relationships is the fact, if we look at this chart right here, the moon being conjunct Juno in the chart, and Juno, for those who don't know, is in Greek mythology the wife of Jupiter, represents marriage and relationship. And I've noticed, Liz, that in charts for clients right now, because Juno is currently going through Virgo, that and it's retrograde right now, that it's kind of going back and forth, but it's where people are trying to improve, because that's that Virgo energy, trying to improve or perfect their relationships right now with that. And so it's wherever it shows up in a person's chart will be the area of life that they are trying to improve right now, their relationship with.
Exactly. And I've been seeing that with my clients too. And Usually the luminaries, the orb of a conjunction, I use a much wider conjunction, so that is 10 degrees away. And but with the luminaries, the sun and the moon, I do use a wider orb. So I notice that also. And then the fan, it's like all those other planets are really, really focused in on a small area of the chart. So it's like this focus, but the moon is really highlighted. So
Right.
relationships and our emotions and our emotional attachment and how we're working in those relationships is, do we need to reanalyze our relationships? Possibly.
Right.
And then we have a grand trine in Earth. So grand trine is a flowing energy. And in Capricorn, we have the ascendant, Phallus, and Ceres. And then another point is Jupiter in Taurus. And then the last point to make the triangle is Moon and Juno in Virgo. So we have quite a bit of the points there in that grand trine. So that's pretty amazing.
Right. Jupiter representing growth, the moon representing emotions, and Juno with relationships, and then Pholos representing structural change in Capricorn there in series, the group structure there a little bit. So,
Well, and the efforts you put in towards your relationships with Jupiter there as helping, I would think that you'd make great progress in any improvements or changes to the relationships that you are in already. So that's helpful.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a variance of ways we could look at this, Liz. I mean, you could say, well, is in Taurus, so it's about the value, increasing the value. And if it's not, then Pholos is giving us a chance to change the structure of that. And the moon's giving us a chance to be more discerning about those relationships and analyze them in that Virgo analytical way that it does and clean them out. So yeah, this could be anywhere from that we, ask for a raise at work, increase our resources because, Taurus representing resources and growth and resources, or we um, could be something where we are building a new home, something of that sort. It's so much going on here with us.
Well, and with this equilateral triangle, it's like that's solid and strong. And then it's in an earth sign also. So uh, any kind of foundation that the relationship's built on, if it needs some adjustments, this is a way great time. This is perfect to work on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the kite going down um, to Sun and Saturn, but we could also say that Mercury's pretty close there too, and it goes sextile to Jupiter and Taurus and sextile to the ascendant,
Right.
Pholis and Ceres right there, and so that just adds a more of a focal point and more energy to that trine. And these are easy aspects and helpers, I call them.
And I want to say one other thing about this Saturn and Pisces next to the Sun there. I, it's my opinion that actually increases the Virgo moon actually, and that more rational energy. Because in my experience, Saturn and Pisces brings sort of a dose of reality to the Piscean archetype. It's a little bit more serious. So it's going to act more Virgo like, actually, Saturn and Pisces acts more Virgo. So it almost in some way strengthens that opposite in there of the moon and Virgo. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. And with that Mercury Sun Saturn conjunction opposite the moon, that's strong and powerful in itself, because like the kite point, you go back to the opposite point and it takes you right back to the moon. So it's just reinforcing this Pisces compassionate energy with the analytical and partnership energy going on here.
Right.
And it's hard to leave out the Chiron conjunct the North Node in Aries. It's still very active. It was exact on February 19th, so a few days before the full moon, but to me it still feels very prominent. It's a new cycle, and health is very prominent, so the health regime. Is it time to start exercising, or exercising in a different way, or more exercise, eating healthier? Rest and sleep would be important. And if any health issues have arisen, or that you've been um, kind of thinking, oh, maybe it'll get better, maybe it'll get better, it's time to address it now.
Right. And something I've noticed, Liz, about this is that because it is, we are in the season of the lunar nodes being in Libra to Aries, that and this is also that evaluation of relationship. The lunar south node Ketu being in Libra is changing relationships, and what I'm finding is that with Chiron opposing that in Aries, which Chiron in Aries is about the value of self and self confidence and self esteem, that wherever this is showing up in people's charts, they're being challenged. Maybe the relationships in that area of their life, whatever house that is in, they're not being valued, or through those relationships. So this is where they're more likely to see changes of relationships happening, possibly.
Exactly. And probably old relationships, or relationships that you've had for a while.
Yeah.
Review. I love it. It all just supports each other. Now we have a mutable T square. It's about fine tuning and adjusting. You want to speak to this, Justin?
Well, what it's interesting is, I'm not sure if many people know what palace archetype is, but it does represent where we see patterns. And when it's in the sign of Sagittarius, which rules belief systems, philosophy, and it's in, so this could mean where where we're looking at those relationships, we're also confronting how how our beliefs and our philosophy, and so I think part of this is what we're seeing in society with division going on. So
Yes, and so we kind of spoke about the moon opposite Mercury, Sun, and Saturn, and Pallas is out there, kind of the focal point, and it would have been a grand cross if we would have had something in Gemini, but that's kind of like the missing leg on the stool, so to speak, or that leg is worn out a little bit. It's like looking for stability.
but it's interesting. I know we don't have any there, but Gemini, I think, speaks for itself in that if as we go through and we are with that Virgo moon analyzing our relationships, and we're, that Piscean is trying to take have a dose of reality about those relationships. I think this is calling us to think about how we're thinking and our beliefs in those relationships. And then, even though nothing's in Gemini, it's all about how are we going to communicate. Even though something's not there, we could still build that out and say Gemini is still there, which is asking us to um, think about our communications, possibly.
I like that. And Mercury is in Pisces there, and its other planet that it rules is um, the sign of Gemini along with Virgo. So it's kind of there unspoken. It's like in the shadow, so to speak.
Right, right.
And then we have a fixed square of adjustments with Venus and Mars in Aquarius. And the Venus Mars conjunction was exact on February 21st. And then again, Jupiter and Taurus. So Jupiter and Taurus is a little bit active right now.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on this? I'm just curious.
Well, it's, Venus and Mars are about relationships also. It's kind of like the sacred marriage, um, the masculine and the feminine energy, intertwined. And Jupiter, um, I would say, is asking somewhat of it to be grounded a little bit, but it's also there to help it break free of what's not working.
Yeah, I like how you say break free, because that Mars and Venus having just gone over Pluto, changing the way we, and Mercury just went over it. So it's changing the way we're thinking, the way, the way our desires are going and the way our action is going. And I think it's Jupiter that's saying, okay, this is an evaluation time of direction, which is Mars, and of our desires, which is Venus. And I think Jupiter's trying to help us have more to increase our value in our lives. And I think this is a big area that's taking a hit right now. As far as our direction and our desires and our communications.
Right, because if those relationships are kind of worn out or old, it's like we could have new hobbies that we like, and it's like, why am I still going to this that I don't even really like anymore? It's like we could
Right.
change and say, well, I'm really strapped for time as it is. It's like I want to spend time on bird watching instead of something else that I don't really have the time for. And so then it just makes it easier on yourself. So.
Right. Yeah.
And then here we have the chart again. Some last thoughts or takeaways or.
Well, I know there's something we didn't mention here, which was Vesta, which does represent also the collective there, and it's in Gemini and communications, sign of communications, and it's squaring that sun. Um, so what do you think about that one?
Vesta squaring the sun. Um, well, I would say, like, for myself, I've been going out, cleaning out my cupboards and getting rid of things that I haven't used in 5 years. It's like, really, like, take a look at this and do you really need that? What about you?
Well, it's squaring a couple of different things in that area there, and I think it's again asking us to take some action around our communications when it relates to, yeah, there's this evaluation going on, but we need to take action and communicate what our intention or where we're wanting to go, right? And so how we are communicating is kind of an important part of this whole thing with the relationships.
Exactly. So I would say to be gentle on ourselves, um, be forgiving of self and others. I'm trying to think of some other things. Stay in compassion, breathe, relax, take care of your health.
Yeah, and it's a Virgo full moon, so it's like, let go of perfection there. Okay, so you didn't finish, this course by this date that you wanted to right about now. Okay, so you may got a little bit of uh, a a buffer there. Don't analyze it and beat yourself up. Virgo wants to be perfect, and it wants to analyze, and so it's about letting go of that. And a Virgo full moon is always helping us to teach us that it's not perfect. That whatever you completed or you're about ready to complete or you didn't complete, it doesn't really matter. Just that you at least did something to help improve something.
Yeah, letting go of self criticism. I have a Virgo moon, so I'm pretty good at that.
So
So
do I.
that's my mantra for this full moon.
Right.
Okay. So, in our upcoming episodes, we have the astrology forecast for March of 2024, archetypal symbols on top cosmos, the Pisces new moon on March 3rd, and astrology star sisters talk over tea, and the topic will be spring equinox. And here's, if you want to get a hold of um, Justin Crockett, Elzie.com, and myself, alightpath.com. And it was great having everybody back again, and we look forward to seeing you again. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Anything else you'd like to share, Justin?
No, happy Virgo full moon.
Sounds great. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.